So today I want to talk to you about the lab profile, or to give it its full title, the Language and Behaviour Profile. I've been using the lab profile now for about 10 years, and the more I use it, the more applications I find for it. And people sometimes say to me, well, what's so special about that? We've got so many profiling tools. Why is the lab profile any different? Why is it any better? Which is a good question. The first thing to say is that the lab profile is not a personality profile. So if, like me, you've looked at lots of other personality profiles, things like the MBTI, DISC profile and so on, you'd be very familiar with the fact that what that gives you is a kind of overview. On average, this is how you can expect somebody to behave. One of the limitations of those profiles is that many of them are done by online questionnaire. Of course, in the old days, it used to be done by paper questionnaire, but at least now we can go online and get the results within moments. The problem with that is that it's a self-assessment. So the person is asked the questions and they give their opinion about their own personality and preferences. Not surprising then, when they get the report at the end, they look at it and go, oh, yes, that sounds like me, because they've already said that's what they're like. Now, the difficulty with that is that most of these online and indeed other forms of personality profile, most of them are highly mood sensitive, which means that if you fill in the form one day and you get a result, and then you fill it in 2-3 days later when you're in a different frame of mind, you'll get a different result. So what's known as the retest reliability of most profiles is actually embarrassingly low. So they're okay if you want to use it as a starting point for a conversation with someone. But if you really want to understand how somebody's going to behave in a specific situation, it's not all that helpful. It can give you a kind of rough idea about this is probably what they do most of the time, so they'd be quite likely to do it in that situation. But at best, it's a guess. Now, the language and behaviour profile is quite different because it's not a personality profile, as I said. It actually profiles the way that somebody communicates and behaves in a specific context. So the context is really important. So what it recognises, if you like, is that we're not the same all the time, that someone who may be very organised and very disciplined when they're at work, when they leave work, sometimes they're much more relaxed about life when they haven't got their work suit on. Sometimes they're actually a bit untidy and a bit disorganised at home, and they're happy with it that way. But could you predict that from doing a personality profile with them on their work behaviour? Maybe, maybe not. But the lab profile would say, OK, let's profile how you are at work and also profile how you are when you're not at work, and we'll find out some interesting things. So that also then lends itself to looking at how somebody might behave, how they might communicate with others in an even smaller context than just their working life. You could do someone's profile for the way they behave in meetings, for example, as opposed to the way they behave when they're at their own desk working on their own. So this raises all sorts of possibilities. But at its simplest level, if we use somebody's language and behaviour profile just to find out more about them, it tends to be more accurate than anything that you can do through self-assessment, because the lab profile is done by expert interview. That means someone with the training sits with the person, or maybe does it over telephone or video link or something, and asks questions, listens to the answers, and interprets the answers on the spot. That then enables us to build up a picture of this person's preferences, what's likely to motivate them, how they're likely to behave in certain circumstances. So it has lots and lots of applications. At a simple level, you can use it for personal development, to help someone understand what their preferences are and how that might affect the way that they behave and how other people respond to them in a given set of circumstances. Equally, you can use it to help develop a team, to get people to understand more about each other, about who likes to do things certain ways, what motivates me, what motivates you, how that's different, and so on. But taking that further, we can also use it in recruitment. Now, most good practitioners would say that you don't use personality profiling in recruitment, but the language and behaviour profile is actually a really valid addition to your recruitment toolkit, because what you can do with it is you can profile a job, a role, you can profile a company culture, and you can then profile candidates so that you can see where's the best fit. And the great thing I love about it is that you don't actually have to do the whole profile. So if there are 2 or 3 areas that you say, right, these are really important. We need somebody, for example, who can follow procedure, who's detail conscious, and who will spot mistakes. Those are 3 elements of the lab profile. You can simply ask those 3 questions. You don't have to ask the other 11 if you don't want to. So you can be selective about it. And that would mean that you could get a good understanding of a person's preference in relation to those things, which wouldn't necessarily come over in the other aspects of a recruitment process. So you can see that already we've got lots of applications. But I could go even further, because we can also use it in looking at culture. We can look at leadership behaviour using the lab profile. There are so many different applications, and it all stems from this one set of 14 questions that enables us to build up a profile of how somebody likes to behave and how they're likely to communicate in a given set of circumstances. Once we've got that, we can predict a lot of different things about them. For example, there's a question you can ask that isn't at all about how long anybody stays in a job, but it will enable you to predict how long they'll stay in a job before they start to get the feeling that, it's time for a change. Now, wouldn't that be useful? Wouldn't that be really helpful to know when you're recruiting new people into a role, just how long they're likely to stay? And you may say, it doesn't matter. Fine. If it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. But if you need someone who's going to stay for at least 3 years, then you could whittle them out using that question. So you can see there's lots of reasons why I'm enthusiastic about this tool, lots of ways in which it can be used. And if you're interested in just getting started with it, then there's lots of different ways to do that. One of them is the excellent book Words That Change Minds, written by Shelley Rose Charvet, who is known worldwide as the Queen of Lab Profile. I did a lot of my training with Shelley, and she really does have a lot of useful insights into how this tool works. But there are also courses that you can attend, and there's lots of resources online. So please get in touch if you're interested in finding out more.